to order. The Sergeant at Arms will please secure the chamber doors. Members, please take your seats. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. President,
has everyone recorded their presence in the chamber? We will substitute the earlier invocation for today's Legislative Day invocation. Do we have everyone who is in the chamber? It appears so. The clerk will take the call. With 38 members in the chamber and a quorum being present, the Senate of Maryland is now again in session. We will waive the reading of the journal from the prior legislative day. Does the chair of judicial proceedings wish to pull some folks off?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. I'd like the committee to just step off the floor to go to the red room for just a quick 5-minute voting session.
All right, JPR will go ahead to the red room for a quick voting session. Sergeant at Arms will open the back chamber door. All right, while they are out, let's go ahead and read this message from the House, yeas and nays. This is 21. Clerk will read the bill.
Senate Bill 209, Chair, Education, Health, and Environmental Affairs Committee, State Board of Physical Therapy Examiners, Sunset Extension.
All right. Let's go ahead. Do we have, can we do a, nope, we're not going to have that one. What happened to that message? Oh, there it is. All right, we've got House Bill 285 that we have a message. Clerk will read the message.
House Bill 285, Delegate Jones, Property Tax, Disabled Law Enforcement Officers and Rescue Workers, Federal Police and Criminal Investigators. By the Majority Leader, ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, the House of Delegates does not concur in the Senate amendments to the House bill and agrees to a conference committee to confer on the disagreeing votes of the two houses. The Senate has appointed Senator Elford chairman, Senator Young, Senator Eckert. The House appoints Delegate D. Barnes chair, Delegate C. Branch, Delegate Patterson. Said bill is returned herewith by order of Sylvia Siegert, Chief Clerk.
All right, message having been read is ordered journalized. We've got another message. This is House Bill 833. Clerk will read the message.
House Bill 833, Delegate Learman, Criminal Law, Victims of Child Sex Trafficking and Human Trafficking, Safe Harbor and Service Response. By the Majority Leader, ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, the House of Delegates still does not concur in the Senate amendments to the House bill and agrees to a conference committee to confer on the disagreeing votes of the two houses. The Senate has appointed Senator Lee, Chairman, Senator Carter, Senator Castley. House appoints Delegate Moon, Delegate Shetty, Delegate Munez. Said bill is returned herewith by order of Sylvia Siegert, Chief Clerk.
Message having been read is ordered journalized. We have a second reader. This is out of Education, Health, and Environmental Affairs. This is report number 78. Clerk will read the bill.
House Bill 19, Delegate Solomon, Education, School Construction, Pedestrian Safety Plan, Safe Walk to School Act, favorable with one amendment.
Chair recognizes the Vice Chair of the committee as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. This important bill is going to help keep our kids safe. If you all haven't heard about it, there was a 7-year-old boy who died waiting at a bus stop on his way to school in the morning. And we need to make sure that our local school systems, for any school renovation or new school that's going to be seeking funding, make sure they have a plan to keep kids safe that are walking or taking buses. There is one amendment which will limit the scope, make it more affordable, and so we'd like to move the adoption of the favorable report with one amendment.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the one committee amendment and the favorable committee report. On the amendment, any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the one committee amendment is adopted. Question now on the amended report. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 19 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. Chair recognizes Chair of the committee.
Yeah, Mr. President, this is going to have to go back across the hall, so I would move to suspend the rules so we can have 2 readings in the same day and move to third reader.
Chairman moves that we suspend the rules to have 2 readings in one day. Are there any objections to the chairman's motion? Without objection, the motion carries. House Bill 19 is now before the Senate on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 45 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 19, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. All right, Senators, we have a conference committee report. This is Senate Bill 391. Clerk will read the bill.
Senate Bill 391. The President, Economic Development, More Jobs for Marylanders Program, Extension and Alterations.
Chair recognizes the chair of the conference committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. Conferees have met and agreed upon the following changes. The program extended for 2 years instead of 5. Changes to the program are only applicable to entities that are not yet certified as eligible, therefore grandfathering existing entities with the current law. For new participants, the salary must be 150% of state minimum wage. Additional hires are necessary, they are increased, and program benefits for certain areas are for 5 years. Move adoption of the conference report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption, or excuse me, the conference committee chairman moves for the adoption of the conference committee report. Any discussion on the report? Any objections? Without objection, the conference committee report is adopted. Senate Bill 391 is again before the Senate on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 391, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. We've got a concurrence out of JPR and Finance. This is number 48. Clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 612, Senator Bidle, Street Racing, Exhibition Driving and Noise Abatement Prohibited Acts, Enforcement and Penalties, JPR.
Chair recognizes the chair of the committee on
Thank
the
you,
House
Mr.
amendments.
Thank you, Mr. President. The House amendments remove the new prohibition on modifying the noise abatement device, and the House amendments also remove the incarceration as a potential penalty for participating in a race or speed contest. The committee moved unanimously to concur.
All right, the chairman urges the Senate to concur with the House amendments. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the House amendments are adopted. Senate Bill 612 is again before the Senate on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 612 have received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 879, Senator Wallstreicher, Corporations and Associations, Ratification of Defective Corporate Acts, JPR.
All right, we've got chair recognizes the chair of the committee on the House amendments.
Thank you, Mr. President. As passed by the Senate, the bill establishes a process by which a corporation may ratify a defective corporate act. The House amendments conform the bill to HB 996, which passed the Senate unanimously, and by adding clarifying language, the Senate committee, the JPR committee moved to conform unanimously, moved the conforming amendment.
Moves the House amendments, that the Senate adopt the House amendments. On the amendments, any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the House amendments are adopted. Senate Bill 879 is again before the Senate on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 879 have received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 295, Senator Gallion, Maryland Medical Assistance Program, Emergency Service Transporters Reimbursement Finance.
Chair recognizes the chair of the committee as the floor leader.
Thank you. The House amendments strike commercial ambulances from the bill, requires reimbursement for certain services provided by an emergency service transporter to be increased by $50 in fiscal year 2023. We move to concur.
All right, the chair moves that we concur with the House amendments. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the House amendments are adopted. Senate Bill 295 is again before the Senate on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, Senate
President.
Bill 295 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Chair recognizes the minority whip.
I missed explaining my vote on this, but just to say, this
Oh,
is a very,
apologies.
that's okay. This is a very important issue for a lot of our rural, local communities with volunteer fire departments. So I know the senator from District 35 has worked on this for a long time. So great accomplishment, and thank you to the Budget Committee and Finance for working with us to get this done.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you. Good bill. Good bill. All right, clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 826, Senator Klossmeyer, Economic Development, Maryland's Watermen's Microloan Program Establishment Finance.
All right, chair recognizes the chair of the committee.
Thank you. There was no opposition at the committee hearing. I move the amendment and the adoption of the favorable committee report. Oh, wait a minute.
On the amendment, House amendments. House
Okay.
amendments.
The House amendment extends the program by an additional year through fiscal year 2026 and reduces the mandated appropriation from $750,000 to $800,000. We move to concur.
All right, the chair moves that we concur with House amendments. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the Senate concurs with the House amendments. Senate Bill 826 is again on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. 47 votes in the affirmative. Senate Bill 826, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. All right, we've got third reading House bills. This is calendar 72. Clerk will read the first bill.
House Bill 174, Delegate Lehman, Landlord and Tenant Repossession for Failure to Pay Rent, Registration, and License Information.
House Bill 174 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 33 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 174, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 250, Delegate Stewart, Private Well Safety Act of 2022.
House Bill 250 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, oh yes, chair recognizes the minority whip.
Just wanted to ask a question quickly from the floor leader on this bill.
To the floor leader. Senator may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you. There was a little bit of back and forth in the House versus the Senate on this. This is dealing with, is this establishing a new sort of framework for private wells, or is this simply incentivizing a fund for people to remediate wells that may not be up to standard? Or something besides that?
I think it's a little bit of both.
So we don't currently have any standards for private wells in the state at all?
I took my red folder back to committee staff because I really, really wanted it. Can you give me just a second?
Sure,
How about we do this? Why don't we special order this for 10 minutes?
that's fine.
All right,
Thank
any
you, Mr. President.
objections? Without objection, the bill will be special ordered for the next 10 minutes. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 441, Delegate Clippinger, Baltimore City, pretrial release of defendant notice.
House Bill 441 is on third reader for final passage. Chair recognizes the minority leader.
Yes, I have an amendment. Can we just special order this for 30 minutes?
I don't know if we want to do that, but we can do 10 minutes.
Okay, we'll try.
Are there any, all right, any objection? Without objection, the bill will be special ordered for 10 minutes. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 1208, Delegate Kelly, Health Occupations, Healthcare Workforce Expansion.
House Bill 1208 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 1208, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 1285, Delegate Hornberger, Maryland Electricians Act revisions.
All right, House Bill 1285 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 1285, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. We've got a message on a House bill. House Bill 359. Clerk will read the first message.
House Bill 359, Prince George's County Delegation, Prince George's County Alcoholic Beverages, transfer of Class A beer, wine, and liquor license. By the Majority Leader, ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, the House of Delegates refuses to concur in the Senate amendments and respectfully requests the Senate receive from its position. Should the Senate prefer a conference committee to confer on the disagreeing votes of the two houses, the House appoints Delegate Valderrama, Chair, Delegate T. Branch, Delegate Carey. Said bill is returned herewith by order of Sylvia Seeger, Chief Clerk.
Message having been read is ordered journalized. Clerk will read the next message.
By the Majority Leader, ladies and gentlemen of the House of Delegates, the Senate does not recede in the Senate amendments. The Senate respectfully requests the House reconsider and concur. Said bill is returned herewith by order Nicole Alexander, Secretary.
All right, message having been read is adopted. Chair of the Rules Committee, we maybe need to do a Rules Committee meeting, potentially. If we wanted to do a Rules Committee meeting in the Red Room. All right, Madam Chair?
Mr. President, do you want us to do it at this moment?
That would be, I think that would work, timing-wise. If we do the Red Room.
Yes, for just a moment.
All right,
Mr. President, at the same time, could I pull EHE off for 5 minutes?
let's get the Rules Committee back, and then we'll swap.
Okay.
I don't want to, we need to make sure we have a quorum for rules, so. All right, so Rules Committee, if they could please head to the Red Room. We will take good care while they are out. All right, as the Rules Committee, okay. As the Rules Committee goes, we are going to go ahead and pull up the report number 55 out of Judicial Proceedings. Clerk will read the bill.
House Bill 187, Delegate Tarasa, Estates and Trust, Administration of Estates, Fees, favorable.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 42nd District as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. This bill alters the existing statutory fee schedule that may be assessed by the registers of wills, including 1, eliminating the probate fees assessed for small estates valued at $50,000 or less, and 2, altering the probate fees for other estates in a manner that in most cases reduces fees for smaller estates and increases fees for the quite large estates. There are no committee amendments. The bill was passed unanimously among the people there, but there were 5 senators excused, and I move the favorable adoption of the favorable committee report.
All right, the floor leader moves for the adoption of the favorable committee report. On the report, any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the favorable committee report is adopted. House Bill 187 is now open for second read amendments. Any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 187 is ordered passed for third reading. All right, let's, we have another second reading calendar. This is out of finance, special order calendar number 104. Clerk will read the bill.
House Bill 866, Delegate Chi, Genetic Information Privacy, Consumer Protection, and Forensic Genealogy. Questions on the adoption of the amendment offered from the floor by Senator Signor.
All right, question before the body is the amendment offered by the senator from the 44th District who has moved the amendment. Chair recognizes the maker of the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. As I mentioned earlier, the whole intent of this bill when it was introduced was to ensure that the direct-to-consumer industry was regulated under the Consumer Protection Division. However, some other industries seem to think, in spite of what our Attorney General believes, that they are subject to this law, and they sought modification of the language. Mr. President, if possible, might I ask the floor leader a few questions based on?
Will the floor leader yield? Appears so. Senator may proceed.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. Would you mind, could you tell me, do you, in your conversations with Farmer, why they believe that this bill is applicable to them?
Yeah, so again, let me just, okay, several things. I just reiterate, I agree with you 100%. The bill is designed to address those direct consumer kits and not early stage clinical trials. But within, and in fact, we have provisions specifically in the bill that carve out under those trials that are subject to federal law are absolutely not part of this bill. But when you get to, and those typically involve federal funding, but there's a category of this early stage clinical work that does not involve federal funding, and this language that you were proposing arguably applies to these early stage folks, whether it's genetic therapies. They're not taking federal money, but they are in accordance with provisions under the FDA. So there's this category under the language that I think you were proposing that would bring them into a bill that is designed entirely, primarily intended for these direct marketing entities. I'd also add, if I might, because I do appreciate we did, take this, what I think your amendment in the committee across the hall, and we actually drilled even a little deeper with your, I think, input, which I think was very important. There's just a couple other things to this issue I think that's really significant. So we did have a thorough discussion about the amendment, and you appear to be concerned about potential loophole that these early stage clinical trials might expose some kind of loophole in this bill to cut corners when it comes to consent and things of that nature. So a couple things on that. Number one,
Senator, I apologize, just a quick interruption.
Sure.
If Education, Health, and Environmental Affairs could meet in front of the stairs right now, and for just a couple minutes,
okay.
And could go out through the back of the stairwell going to the second floor. Apologies, Senator. Thank you.
No,
Sorry for that
fine.
interruption.
So just a couple things on this point. If they were to try to cut corners and expose a loophole, you heard our committee counsel does not believe there is this loophole, but putting aside committee counsel, they would be exposed to substantial legal liability if they were not in accordance with the institutional review boards and all the rest that apply to this category. So there's legal liability problems, so it's unlikely that anybody would try to carve out or expose the loophole I think that you're concerned about. And secondly, what I was unaware of the first time out was we actually have state law. It's been brought to my attention by counsel when we had the discussion earlier in discussing your amendment, that in fact we have in the health article, when we talk about human trials, there are specific provisions in there that actually subject those trials to federal law, and in fact allow the Attorney General to have authority for injunctive relief to shut that down. So there's a lot of protections both in state law, within the institutional review boards, that would not lend itself to the loophole I think that you're concerned about, which is why when we did take a vote, Mr. President, again, I don't want to get ahead of myself, but the committee did vote unanimously to not support, I think, the amendment that you're proffering. But as I said to you, is if that is the case and there's some attempt, notwithstanding, I think, some of the points I just made, there would be clearly an opportunity in the next session to modify this particular piece of legislation. Right now, there is nothing on the books. You know, if you go to some of the vendors to try to get the family ancestors, there's nothing about consent, there's nothing about disclosures, there's no policies, there are no guardrails at all. But if you're concerned about this loophole, and it actually happens, which seems highly, highly unlikely, then we can modify it. It's not the intent of the committee, let me just be clear. It's not the intent of the committee to create any kind of loophole for folks doing early stage clinical trials. The point of the bill is directed to the direct consumer kits that you're trying to, that's what the point of the bill is. But if there's a loophole that emerges that seems unlikely, that certainly would lend itself to a fix in the next session.
If I might ask, are you aware of any companies performing the type of research that we've been talking about who are concerned about the chilling effect, that are actually engaged in direct-to-consumer genetic testing?
Well, I think you made the point that the definition, technical definition, probably may not even apply to that. I think that's fair. On the other hand, clearly, whether it's the Tech Council or the folks in that space do read the language you're proffering to bring them in to a regime of consent and the rest that is in direct conflict with some of the federal rules that I just, as I said, the institutional review boards, they have their own regimes of consent and disclosures. So this would bring them into a scheme that would be in conflict with other things. One of the reasons, so that's, I guess, my response is there are enough folks that seem very concerned that they're going to be brought into a bill that's not even designed or dedicated or intended to apply to have that chilling effect that you're just referring to, which is why I think the committee unanimously was not supportive of the amendment that you're proffering.
So, conducted in accordance with and subject to, those are the words
that's what we're talking
that this
about.
amendment, right, attempts to change.
Correct.
Do they mean the same?
No, because these early stage clinical trial work, which do not sort of take federal funding, are actually not subject to some of the federal provisions that we're talking about here. But they would be in accordance with, because they are very much incentivized to comply with the various rules, because if they don't, they won't later get approval of the drug they've been testing. It's a little circular here, but there is a significant difference. At the end of the day, we don't want to have a piece of legislation that has a chilling effect on early stage research for a bill that's designed to deal with companies that are, testing your genetics. It just doesn't fit within that. And again, we had a long conversation in the committee. The loophole you're concerned about seems unlikely, because there are checks and balances both in state law, potential legal liability, and even a reading of the provision itself within the committee. I think the loophole concern is not there, but if it turns out that anybody between now and next year tries to cut corners on the consent and all the things that we're talking about here, then we could fix it like we do with many, many, many other bills.
Have there been any examples here in the state of Maryland where a consumer's rights have been violated by any of these direct-to-consumer genetic companies?
Well, that's the point of the bill.
And-
I mean, the
and-
point of
and-
the bill is we don't have any protections for consumers right now. And so in order, you know, when you're going to collect genetic information, or we're saying in this piece of legislation that you should have the consent of the person, you should have disclosures, there should be policies in place. Right now, there's nothing. So when you talk about, that's what the point of the bill is, that we have protections in law so that if these companies take liberty with your genetic information, that you've got some say over it. So when you say violating, no, now there would be no violations because we have nothing on the books. That's what the bill's about.
Well, and that's my point. To date, when we've talked about genetic testing and direct-to-consumer companies, there have been violations, but not here in the state of Maryland. And those violations have generally occurred on the criminal side of the law,
Yeah, I mean,
which is something that we dealt with last year. After a lot of hard work, we dealt with that. But for the consumer side, there haven't been, and it's why I posit that there's no need to rush this year. What I'm positing is that we have time to get it right rather than to rush and pass something just for the sake of passing something.
Well, I wouldn't
we
say
wanna, we want to pass something that's right.
I really, with all respect, I don't have that much more to add. I mean, we have a bill designed for one thing. We don't want to have a chilling effect on early clinical trials, whether it was COVID or whatever. This bill really isn't designed to do that. You're concerned about a loophole that seems not likely to be the case because potential legal liability, state law that I mentioned earlier that brings in federal law and injunctive relief for the Attorney General. And so I really, you know, at this point, Mr. President, we can go back and forth on this. I think we're talking past each other a little bit, but, and I have tremendous respect for the Senator from the 44th on this issue. We just, on these couple of words, we have a legitimate disagreement, and I'll just leave it at that. But I will reiterate the fact that the committee unanimously passed the bill out of committee and now has unanimously rejected what's that? Yeah, reaffirmed the opposition to the amendment that you've proffered previously at the prior session. So,
Thank you. Mr. President, I still press my amendment.
All right, on the amendment,
Ask for roll call.
Any further discussion? Chair recognizes the senator from the 33rd on the amendment.
Thank you very much. I'd like to ask a couple questions for the maker of the amendment, if I may.
Senator may proceed.
Thank you very much. Senator, I'm sorry, I was distracted and off the floor and on the floor and everything else. In my world, I'm the family genealogist. I've got 10,000 names, dates of birth, dates of death. 3 or 4 of my family members have done the swab to try to identify other family members. Does this bill adversely affect my hobby of finding out where all the bodies are buried?
Thank you for the question. In fact, I remember last year when we had the other bill dealing with genetic genealogy, you had stood up and asked a similar question. The answer to that is I don't know. This bill, the intent was to ensure that when you go on to Ancestry or 23andMe or whatever those companies, that you receive certain disclosures prior to you doing the swab, and that there were certain consents that these companies would have to receive prior to them using your DNA for some other purpose, whether it was within their family of companies or whatever. It was supposed to provide those kinds of protections. What I am saying, and the reason that I've made this amendment is, are there these other companies that for whatever reason they believe that they are subject to this law? So they put something in there that would make them not subject to this law. So it's a concern that the AG has pointed out to me. and pointed out to a number of the people on the committee that concerns me. And simply, I just want to make certain that people like you and me, when we're using these services, that we are protected. And the reality is, I just don't know what the future holds with this type of language.
Thank you very much, the Senator. One of the big issues that we face as a body, and especially in JPR, is can this test or this bill affect the use of our DNA and family history in any way impact our ability to be prosecuted or identified in a criminal or a civil issue? Is this an issue that is before us with this bill?
No, that issue was dealt with last year.
So we're fine. They're not going to, if I use my DNA, they're not going to come after me because they think my brother's a bank robber.
Well, they may, but they're going to have to go through some hoops before they use it.
Thank you, Senator. You like my humor. I really appreciate it. And then I do have a final question. There's an expression I use, the train will be back in the station in about 3 minutes. So it had to do with the family history, the criminal. And Mr. President, when I think of it, I'll jump back up. Thank you, Senator.
Well, the question is on the amendment. On the amendment, if there's no further discussion, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 25 votes in the negative, the Senator's amendment fails. The bill is on we're still on the second amendments to the bill.
Yes.
Let's just double check. We're on second reader, is that correct? It's open to amendment. Chair recognizes the senator from the 44th. Senator have an amendment?
I'd like to, I believe under the rules I'm allowed one layover.
Senator, that is incorrect. That would be an out of order motion at this time. We don't actually have anything before us except the procedural step of moving it to third.
Thank you.
All right. Chair recognizes
Yes,
Vice
with
Chair.
that, Mr. President, I move to suspend the rules to move the 2 readings in one day.
All right, one moment. Let's do this. We got to adopt. We have to move the bill to third reader. So if there are no further amendments to the bill or its title, hearing none, the bill is ordered passed for third reading. Vice Chair has made a motion to suspend the rules for 2 readings in a single day. On the motion, is there an objection to the motion? All in favor of the motion say aye. Chair recognizes the senator from 44th.
I object.
Okay, we'll do a roll call on the motion. A green vote will be to suspend the rules. A red vote will be to reject the motion. The clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 31 votes in the affirmative, the senator's motion fails. Chair recognizes the senator from Anne Arundel.
Mr. President, I need to change a vote on an amendment.
On the prior,
I have the amendment number, SB 866, Amendment 353921/1.
All right. The senator's moved to change from
yea to nay.
Yea to nay. Can we read the number one more time?
Yes. It's amendment number 353921/1.
Last one. Okay. Do we have that, Madam Clerk? All right. Are there any objections? Without objection, so ordered. All right. We had a special ordered bill. Oh.
Mr. President, this is on third reader.
Senator requires 32 votes to suspend the rules. So the bill is next legislative day. All right. We are on House Bill 44, special order calendar. Bill that was special ordered for 10 minutes later. This is House Bill 441. Clerk will read the bill.
House Bill 441, Delegate Clippinger, Baltimore City, pretrial release of defendant notice.
All right, House Bill 441 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 441, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. We have a concurrence calendar. Concurrence. This is number 50. Concurrence number 50. Clerk will read the bill.
Senate Bill 860, Senator King, Solar Energy, School Construction, and Community Solar Energy Generating Systems, B&T.
Chair recognizes the bill sponsor on the House amendments.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Bill 860 is a concurrence. The bill is largely identical to HB 1039 as passed by the Senate. The only difference is a defined term that was added and installation on a parking facility canopy. These amendments don't conflict with House Bill 1039, so Budget and Tax concurred.
All right. The Senator moves that we concur with the House amendments. Any discussion? Any objections? Yes, Chair recognizes the Senator from the 42nd District.
Thank you, Mr. President. I've got a question for the floor leader.
Will the floor leader yield for a question? Senator may proceed.
Am I correct that this was the bill on which I added an amendment to provide that school authorities building new schools would have to consider the placement of solar panels on the roofs of the schools, and if they decided not to do it, would have to notify the IAC why they chose not to put solar panels on their roofs?
Yes.
Okay. And what is the status of that amendment at this time?
What my chairman said.
As a lawyer who takes depositions occasionally, this doesn't register.
It was a negative.
Okay. So would it be appropriate, Mr. President, for me to speak against this concurrence?
Senator could speak against the concurrence of the amendments, certainly is an option.
It's an option. Rather not kill the bill.
All right. Well, I'd like to avail myself of the option for a moment or two.
Senator may proceed.
The body may recall that I have been trying for several years now to provide that solar panels should be placed on the roofs of brand new schools that are going to be constructed. We are going to spend billions of dollars here in Maryland in the next decade on brand new schools. And these days they don't construct schools with peaked roofs. The schools are all constructed with large, sprawling, flat roofs, which are perfect for solar panels. In my district, the state fairgrounds received a telephone call 2 years ago from a solar company, and they asked whether or not the state fairgrounds would allow the solar company to come onto the state fairgrounds and install solar panels on the roof of the Cow Palace. Now, for those of you who have been to the state fairgrounds, you probably have seen the Cow Palace. It is a very large building under roof. The roof is flat, and the building accommodates all the cows that are brought to the state fair to be shown in late August, just before Labor Day. The head of the state fair inquired how much it's going to cost, and the solar panel company said it's not going to cost anything. We will install the solar panels on your roof for free. And they went on and said, not only will we install the solar panels for free, you are going to receive financial benefits over the course of the next 15 years from those solar panels, because we're going to give you part of the money that is going to be realized by selling the solar energy on the grid. So the president of the fairgrounds said, well, what's the catch? And the answer was, there is no catch. Things have changed. The old template was you had to lay out money for solar panels, and then gradually over the years, as you sold the electricity, you would recuperate the money that you had laid out on day one. That template, that paradigm, is no longer effective. These days, solar companies will come, if you have a large enough, flat enough roof, they will come and for free install solar panels on the roofs. So I rebel against the idea that we are going to install solar panels on our productive agricultural land and cover over the little agricultural land we have in this small state of Maryland with steel and silicone, when we have all of these roofs which are completely available and conducive to installing solar panels. So that is why I made the motion to add my amendment to this bill. And as I recall, the body accepted that motion unanimously. So apparently the bill has come back. That amendment has been stripped off in the House, and I want to speak against accepting this concurrence. At some point, we need to bite the bullet and insist that if we're going to spend billions of dollars on new schools with flat roofs, that solar panels at least need to be considered to be added to the tops of the roofs.
Thank you.
All right, on the motion, the motion is to concur with the House amendments on the motion. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor of the House amendment say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The House amendments are adopted. Senate Bill 860 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 33 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 860, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. We've got another concurrence.
Mr. President?
Yes, Chair recognizes the senator from the 36th District.
Thank you very much. I was wondering if I could make a motion to reconsider the vote on which the special order for House Bill 866 was passed.
Senator has made the motion to reconsider the vote by which the motion to
For two readings in
suspend
one
the
day.
rules, was the senator on the prevailing side?
I was on the side that voted no, and because there were not 32 votes, that was the prevailing side.
The senator was on the prevailing side. So that means that the motion is in order. So the question before the body is shall we reconsider the vote by which, woo. All right. So let's just be clear with where we are. The motion to reconsider is what's in question at the moment. So a green vote will be to reconsider the underlying question. So this is the question to whether to reconsider. Nope, 866. House, yep, that's correct. So the question is, again, the motion is to reconsider the vote by which the prior vote occurred. A green vote will bring the rule back to the floor. Any discussion? Clear as mud, right? A green vote brings the vote back. A red vote would not. Chair recognizes the senator from the 44th.
Just a point of clarification.
Okay. Oh, yes, Chair recognizes the senator from the 44th. So just to be clear, motion to reconsider is to bring the question of whether to suspend the rules back to the floor. So this is just whether to reconsider. A green vote reconsiders, a red vote does not. We're going to take a roll call. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 39 votes in the affirmative, the vote is reconsidered. Now, the question before the body is whether to suspend the rules to do two readings in one day. A green vote will suspend the rules. A red vote will be to reject the motion. Any discussion? Are we clear on the question? If so, we'll do a roll call vote. The clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anybody wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 38 votes in the affirmative, the motion carries. Their rules having been suspended, House Bill 866 is now before the Senate on third reader for final passage. Chair recognizes the senator from the 44th.
Thank you very much, man.
On the bill.
Yeah, on the bill, I don't know. I really don't know what to do. What more to say about this bill? There isn't, and I don't know. Maybe if the votes would have been changed if I would have read this article. But I'm extremely concerned that in a rush to just to do something, that we are probably not doing. We're not doing the right thing. There's certainly time that we could take. 1 year was all that it would take. During the interim, I talked with the folk who had initially asked me about introducing this legislation, and I certainly would have continued working on this legislation. My concern, again, from talking with the AG, is that we're making a mistake that I'm not certain, given how things work around here, that we're really going to address. With so many other important things to do, it's really disconcerting. And when you look at the legislation, I just want to make certain that people are aware of what we're talking about. When we're talking about direct-to-consumer genetic testing company, what does that mean? It's an entity that offers genetic testing products or services directly to a consumer, or collects, uses, or analyzes genetic data that resulted from a direct-to-consumer genetic testing product or service that was provided to the company by a consumer. That is the definition. And for these companies, these pharma companies and others that were not intended to be regulated, for them to come, and the reality is, I feel like my bill got hijacked. It came in with a specific purpose, and because the committee has agreed with this particular industry's argument, which still is as clear as mud to me as to how they fall within the definition of direct-to-consumer genetic testing company, I just don't get it. You go look further into the bill.
Senator, could just interrupt you very briefly for the purposes of an introduction, very briefly. Someone that's special, not sure how long they're able to be here. But please, the senator still has the floor, just very briefly. Just want to introduce Jay Spry, who has joined us this evening, works in the DLS print shop, and has been working for the for the General Assembly for 47 years, 47 years. And just want to celebrate his service. We are so thankful. The print shop does remarkable work, and many more thanks to come tonight, but just want to appreciate your incredible service to the people of Maryland. Thank you. Senator from the 44th still has the floor. Senator from the 44th.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. When looking at the legislation, again, what we talked about was how this particular legislation was to provide certain notice to the consumer, certain consents under 14-4404. It says a direct-to-consumer genetic testing company at a minimum shall obtain the following consents from a consumer before collecting, using, or disclosing the consumer's genetic data. Again, when you look at that, what we're talking about is Ancestry.com. For the life of me, I'm not understanding how Farmer thinks that they're regulated there. I'm trying to look at some of the other provisions, because that's where I'm stuck. A direct-to-consumer genetic testing company shall establish legal policies and processes for disclosing genetic data to law enforcement or another government agency without a consumer's express written consent. That is applicable to Ancestry.com and these other direct-to-consumer genetic testing companies. How is it applicable to Pharma? Again, I'm not understanding. The bill says a direct-to-consumer genetic testing company shall establish a process for a consumer to access the consumer's genetic data, delete the consumer's account and genetic data, and request the destruction of the consumer's biological sample. Explain to me how this affects Pharma. This bill was narrowly tailored to deal just with the subject matter that was the intent. And it's unfortunate that I'm standing here and having to talk about this when I thought I made it pretty clear that, and you think about, Mr. President, it's interesting because I've told the community that as a legislator you have bills, right? And these bills, they remind you of your children. And you send them out in the world and people start attaching things to them. And before you know it, the legislation doesn't quite look like what you sent it out in the world to look like. This is the prime example that I'm talking about. I would say this isn't my child anymore because of, and we say it's just 3 words, but legally speaking, 1 word can change the entire definition of anything. And I'm afraid that another bill dies, I heard. I'm afraid.
I think there are a lot of children about to suffer a similar fate.
I'm afraid that because this committee has decided not to accept the sponsors' desires, but rather big industry's desire, that we may be going down somewhere where we don't want to be. Mr. President, we have about 50 minutes left before sine die. And I'm not going to do this to my colleagues. I'm going to agree to sit down and you all can vote your conscience after hearing everything that's been presented to you. You're saying keep on talking. I'm not going to do that. But what I am asking, vote your conscience. I'm telling you that there's a problem with this legislation, the way that it was modified. I certainly would hope that you would trust me when I'm saying that if the bill does not pass on 3rd reader, my intentions were to bring the bill back and get it into a posture that was going to protect consumers. So with that, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to be quiet. Thank you.
All right. Question. The bill's on 3rd reader for final passage. Any further discussion? Are we sure? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 32 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 866, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. We've got some yeas and nays. This is calendar number 12. Clerk will read the bills.
Senate Bill 36, Senator West, Wills and Trust Instruments, Electronic Execution. This is an emergency bill.
Our Majority Leader moves so be considered the reading of the bills. This is a rules report, number 12. Clerk will read the bills.
House Bill 706, Delegate Sample Hughes.
Majority Leader moves so be considered the reading of the bills. They'll be referred to their appropriate standing committees. What else do we have? All right, we got a concurrence calendar. This is number 51. Clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 870, Senator Washington, Baltimore City Youth Data Hub Establishment, EHE.
All right, Chair recognizes the senator from Baltimore City on the House Amendments.
Thank you, Mr. President. It does say that it takes a village, and it certainly took a village for this one. The motion is to concur with the House amendments.
All right, the Chair moves that we concur with House amendments. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the House amendments are. Oh, Chair recognizes the
Just a
minority
quick
leader.
question, because things happen quick in committee, and I forgot to ask this.
Senator may proceed.
I know we asked in the committee when we sent this over that the Social Security was the full Social Security being stored, and a lot of agencies only store the last 4 digits.
Right.
What's the posture now?
So first of all, it's been very clear that no individual level data will be revealed. So in other words, the way that they're doing the analysis, you're not going to be able to connect individual level information. It's only being reported in the aggregate. And the committee amendments that we are accepting put it in a posture where it corrected an issue, making sure that it's the city council. They limited actually the providers to only Baltimore City schools, and some local data, so it's not as expansive as it was before. And then also they're making sure that that individuals can watch the proceedings. We had attempted to ensure some privacy of the meetings, but they're open to PIA.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right. Questions on the House amendments? Any further discussion? Any opposition? Seeing none, the House amendments are adopted. Senate Bill 870 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 870, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 59, Senator McCray, Maryland Transportation Authority, Public-Private Partnerships and Options for the Payment of Tolls and Civil Penalties, Budget and Taxation.
Chair recognizes Chair of the committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. The amendments strike certain provisions of the bill and require that the authority reimburse any civil penalty paid in error under the authority's customer assistance plan. Move to concur.
Chairman moves that we concur with House amendments. Any discussion? Chair recognizes the senator from District 4 on the amendments.
Yeah, I didn't catch what those amendments were. You read that a bit fast.
They strike the provisions of the bill strike provisions of the bill that require that the authority reimburse any civil penalty paid in error under the authority's customer assistance plan.
All right,
This
thank
is-
you.
All right, on the House amendments, any further discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the House amendments are adopted. Senate Bill 59 is again before us on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If
Mr.
not,
President.
Yes, Chair recognizes the senator from 36.
Just, can I get a follow exactly what this bill does now? Is that okay?
Senator,
It's been something
Chairman
that's been
Deal?
pretty important,
Yeah,
obviously.
this is going to help the citizens who have received these citations. It's going to make it easier so that they will not, the ones that they paid in error, there won't be any civil penalties.
That's a good thing. Okay, thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Senator. On the third reading, final passage, any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 59 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Senators, we have a conference committee report that has come in. This is number House Bill 1205. We'll come back. Clerk will read the bill.
House Bill 1205, State Government Information Technology and Cybersecurity Related Infrastructure, Modernized Maryland Act of 2022.
Chair recognizes the President Pro Tem on the Conference Committee report.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, the conferees compromised on a couple of issues. For the cybersecurity assessments, they will occur every 2 years instead of 3 to conform with another cyber bill. It also added the Office of the Attorney General, Comptroller, and Treasurer to the entities that are excluded from this requirement. When the bill addressed certain water and sewer systems, the consensus was to change it to one-time assessment and moved it to the uncodified provision in the bill. A technical change was made to a term, and finally, the certain member appointment to the to Modernized Maryland Oversight Commission, the governor will make the appointment instead of the presiding officers. Mr. President, we move the Conference Committee report.
All right, floor leader moves to the adoption of the Conference Committee report. Any discussion? Any objections to the report? Without objection, the Conference Committee report is adopted. House Bill 1205 is now before the body on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 1205 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. All right, let's go back to the calendar that we were on. We'll go to the next bill on that calendar.
Senate Bill 242, Senator Hershey, Maryland Department of Health System for Newborn Screening Requirements, Finance.
Chair recognizes the Chair of Finance on the House amendments.
Thank you. The House amendments bring in the State Advisory Council on Hereditary and Congenital Disorders to the process and require screening to commence within 1 year after approval. We move to concur.
All right, the chair moves that we concur with House amendments. Any discussion? Any objection to the House amendments? Without objection, the House amendments are adopted. Senate Bill 242 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 242 have received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 926, Senator Patterson, Labor and Employment, Apprenticeship and Representation of the Apprenticeship and Training Council, Finance.
All right, chair recognizes the Chair of Finance on the House amendments.
Thank you. The House amendments alter the structure and duties of the commission and the recipient of the grant funds. We move to concur.
All right, Chair moves that we concur with the House amendments. On the amendments, Chair recognizes the senator from the 34th District.
If I could just ask the floor leader, or the chairman, if do any of these address the concerns addressed by the department for this bill, the amendments?
The amendments just alter the structure and the duties of the commission and who can get the grant funds, the recipient. That's really what they do. And
They
we
really don't
move to
address the
concur.
department's concerns then at all.
Well, you would have to tell me what you think the department concerns are.
No, I'm just looking at their letter of information. They seem to have a number of concerns about the bill. It sounds like these amendments are not
These are
addressed.
just the amendments. The bill itself, not including these amendments, address a lot that the department was concerned about, but this is what the amendments do.
All right, thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Senator. All right, on the amendments, or on the concurrence, any further discussion? If not, all in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The House amendments are adopted. Senate Bill 926 is again before the Senate on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk.
Mr. Chairman,
Chair has 2 minutes.
I just want to explain my vote by thanking the Finance Committee, the Budget and Tax Committee, yourself, the senator from the 26th District, and the House leadership for working together to work this out. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator. All right, clerk will take the call. With 36 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 926 have received a constitutional majority is declared passed. We've got a concurrence calendar number 52. Clerk, read the bill.
Senate Bill 124, Senator Heddleman, Public Schools Grant Program to Reduce and Compost School Waste, EHE.
Chair recognizes the Chair of the Committee on the House Amendments.
Mr. President, this sets up a compost program in schools across the state. The House amendments unfortunately strike the appropriation for the program, but the framework's in place and hopefully it can be expanded in coming years. We move to concur.
This pile is growing, not shrinking. So, all right. Chair moves that we concur with the House amendments. Any discussion? Not all in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed nay. The ayes have it. The House amendments are adopted. Senate Bill 124 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk.
Mr. President.
Yes, Chair has 2 minutes, or excuse me, Senator has 2 minutes to explain her vote.
Thank you, Mr. President. I wanted to explain my vote in support of this bill, SB 124, with the composting. We have started a voluntary composting program with our restaurants in Ocean City, and we're looking to expand this. So whether we're doing this in the private sector with the restaurants or public schools, I think it's a good bill.
All right. Any further senators wish to explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 124, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. All right, we've got a conference report, 1380, House Bill 1380. Clerk will read the bill.
House Bill 1380, General Provisions, LGBTQ Veterans, Honorable Discharge, Restoration of Honor Act.
All right, Chair recognizes the Vice Chair, or the Chair of the Conference Committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. This was a little bit of a give and take. We appreciated the amendment from the senator from District 4 and his suggestion that we add the word solely. We regained the language on consensual relationships, though, kept the documentation, and there are 6 signatures on the conference report. So we move adoption of the favorable conference report.
All right, the chair moves that we adopt the Conference Committee report. On the report, Chair recognizes the senator from
I
District
just want to
7.
thank the chairwoman of the Conference Committee, because I've been looking here, I couldn't see signatures, but thank you for clarifying for all of us.
All right, on the report, Chair recognizes the senator from the 34th.
Can we just get a little bit more detail on what the Conference Committee did?
As I indicated, Senator, our good colleague from District 4 had the word solely as part of the part of his amendment, which was an important addition, but it did exclude consensual relationships, and so the Conference Committee put consensual relationships back in, but kept the documentation. So it was a good middle ground that will still return honor and return honorable discharge to our LGBTQ veterans.
So it's a consensual relationship.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, on the report, any further discussion? Any objections to the report? Without objection, the Conference Committee report is adopted. House Bill 1380 is now before us on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 1380, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. We have House Bill number 942, Conference Committee report. Clerk will read
Mr. President.
the bill. Oh, yes. Chair
Can
recognizes
I
Senator
change a vote on Senate Bill 926 from green to red?
926, green to red. Any objections? Without objection, so ordered.
Thank you.
Clerk will read the bill.
House Bill 942, Delegate Lukey, Horse Racing, Satellite Simulcast Betting Facilities, and Permit Holders Alterations.
Chair recognizes Chair of the Committee on the conference report.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Conference Committee agreed to add provisions relating to exclusion zones around sports wagering facilities. The amendments were: 1, provide a person with a Class B sports wagering facility in Charles County with a 15-mile radius exclusion zone. 2, provide a person with a Class B sports wagering facility in Carroll County with a 10-mile radius. And 3, a person with a Class B sports wagering facility in Frederick County with a 5-mile radius zone. The exclusion zones will remain in place until June 1st, 2025. Finally, amendments alter the Rocky Gap exclusion zone. The current 15-mile exclusion zone around Rocky Gap facility will not become effective until Rocky Gap is issued a sports wagering license. Once effective, any facilities licensed in the zone will be allowed to renew their licenses. Move adoption of the committee the Conference Committee report.
All right, Chair moves for the adoption of the Conference Committee report. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the Conference Committee report is adopted. Are there any, House Bill 942 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change it?
Explain the vote.
Minority
Mr.
Whip has
President.
2 minutes to explain his vote.
Thank you, Mr. President. I really want to thank the committee for working so closely with all of the members on this issue. Can be kind of delicate figuring all these things out with gaming, and I know I appreciate the work of the committee truly, and the committee chair in working with us on giving local courtesy. And these are important things for our small businesses to be a part of what's allowed in our gaming in the state. And so I'm proud to cast my yes vote for this bill.
All right, any further explanations of vote? If not, clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 942, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. We've got a Conference Committee report, House Bill 136. Clerk will read the bill, House Bill 136.
House Bill 136, Education, Public and Non-Public Schools, Seizure Action Plans, Brindley's Act.
Chair recognizes the chair of the Conference Committee.
Yeah, Mr. President, this conforms it to the version that we passed earlier or last week. Move adoption of the concurrence report.
The Conference Committee report.
Conference Committee report. Thank you.
All right. Any discussion of the report? Chairman's moved for the adoption. Any objections? Without objection, the report is adopted. House Bill 136 is again before the Senate on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 136, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. We've got a Conference Committee Senate bill. I didn't see the number. Clerk will read the bill.
Senate Bill 71, Senator Kramer, Hate Crime Civil Remedy.
All right. Let's get it up. All right, here's Conference Committee report. Chair of the Conference Committee. Senator from Baltimore City of the Conference Committee. If the Senator could describe the Conference Committee, what the agreement of the Conference Committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. So the Conference Committee agreed to accept the House's version of the bill and to eliminate the Senate amendment.
All right.
Hold up, I've got it. Some version of it. So, can we just hold this over? I don't have anything on my. A few minutes.
We can take 5 minutes.
Okay.
Request a special order of the bill for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
All right. Any objections? Without objection, the bill will be special ordered for 5 minutes. What Senate bills do we have left? I believe that we have the Chair Budget and Tax had a motion on a House bill on calendar 73. This is on report number 73. Oh, sorry.
I believe it's on third reader, isn't it?
But it's still the same day, so.
Oh, I'm sorry.
If we could get the clerk
Yes.
to read the bill.
House Bill 187, Delegate Tarasa, Estates and Trust Administration of Estates Fees.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Chair
Yeah,
recognizes.
I move to suspend the rules to do 2 readings in one day.
All right, Chair has moved to suspend the rule to do 2 readings in one day. Are there any objections to the Senator's motion? Without objection, the motion carries. House Bill 187 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 32 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 187 having received constitutional majority is declared passed. Next we have Conference Committee, House Bill 833. Clerk will read the bill.
House Bill 833, Delegate Learman, Criminal Law, Victims of Child Sex Trafficking and Human Trafficking, Safe Harbor and Service Response.
All right, Chair recognizes the Senator from Montgomery County on the Conference Committee report.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. As amended, 833 provides a defense for duress to certain offenses if the defendant, who is a minor, committed the offense as a result of being the human trafficking victim of another. The amendment also strikes the criminal bar from prosecution, replaces those provisions with a procedure to schedule a court hearing within 15 days after the motion is filed, and if there's good cause shown during that period, may be extended additional 15 days. If the court determines that the victim of sex or human trafficking committed the qualifying offense as a result of being a victim of sex trafficking or being a victim of human trafficking, the court may dismiss a qualifying offense if there has not been previous violations within the previous 12 months. Move the Conference Committee report.
All right, the Senator moves the adoption of the Conference Committee report. Chair
President.
recognizes the Senator from District 7.
Yeah.
Floor Leader Yield.
Floor Leader Yield.
So you were talking about an amendment, but it was a Conference Committee. Did the Conference Committee adopt a new amendment?
We adopted the House amendments to the
So what
Safe
you're talking
Harbor
about is
bill.
that is the House amendment?
Yes.
The Senator,
Okay.
I think the Senator said that the report is an amendment to the
The
underlying bill.
report, we adopted the House amendment to the Safe Harbor bill.
Okay. I'm just a little confused. I thought Conference Committee, you were kind of going back and forth.
Report is an amendment, in
I'm
other
sorry?
words. The report is an amendment.
Okay.
All right.
I'll yield to my colleague.
All right, Chair recognizes the Senator from the 36th.
Thank you, Mr. President. So is this a brand-new amendment?
This was amendment agreed to by the Conference Committee, but it was initiated by the House side.
Well, the Senate had an amendment on it from JPR, and the House had an amendment from Judiciary. And then this says that it struck the Senate amendment and then picked up a Conference Committee amendment.
That's
But
correct.
Is that Conference Committee amendment is not the same as the House amendment? It's a different amendment?
Well, it's an amendment adopted by the Conference Committee.
Okay, then how does that differ from the two amendments?
Well, what this does is that it provides, it still provides safe harbor. And there's still some components in there from both bills, but in this case, hold on just a minute. Let me get that. Just a minute. It's pretty much an improved amendment because it allows more discretion by the court to get involved in the decision-making with respect to a child victim.
Right. And then why was the JPR amendment rejected?
We decided this was truly the true intent of both bills when it originally came out.
Even though...
But just to provide the safe harbor for the child sex trafficking victim.
Okay, but again, the bill that came out had the JPR amendment on it.
Well, the JPR amendment that we had dealt with kind of a different subject matter, dealt with an affirmative defense.
Right.
And so we wanted to go back to the original intent of providing a safe harbor for a child sex trafficking victim. And then we had the process and to create a process where they could get safe harbor for the offense of like prostitution, but not all the qualifying offenses that were listed previously.
Were any parts of the original JPR amendment accepted then after they were rejected?
Yes. I'll defer to the chairman of our committee.
All right, I think we're going to have to get to a place where we get to up or down, so.
Thank you, Mr.
Chair
President.
recognizes the chair of the committee.
Look, so what JPR did was essentially we turned it into an affirmative defense so that there's a list of enumerated crimes that they came in with a safe harbor provision, meaning that you couldn't even be charged for it if you were a minor. And so what we did was we kind of flipped it. Instead of saying that you couldn't charge or immunity, for lack of a better phrase, we flipped it to you could raise the defense for those enumerated crimes that were laid out. So what the conference committee has done has left in the provision for not charging for the crime of prostitution. So you could say that that's the kind of the safe harbor. It's a smaller safe harbor.
Right.
And for everything else, it kind of left back to what we did in JPR. And then there's a second part of the bill that the senator was discussing. So, but the crux of it is they've basically, except for prostitution, they've said that it's a defense. So for prostitution, there's a safe harbor, meaning you can't charge for that. And so there you have it.
Okay, thank you. That's right.
And it's very limited too now. It's
Excuse
very
me?
limited now.
All right, let's go ahead and let's take is there a request a special order of the bill for 5 minutes?
Yes. Mr. President, could you special order
Any
the bill?
objections? Without
5
objection, so ordered. We've got another conference committee report, Senate Bill 861. Clerk will read the bill.
Senate Bill 861, Senator Bidel, Public Safety, Firearms, Crimes Enforcement Center, Offenses and Procedures.
All right, Chair of the conference committee. Chair recognizes Chair of the committee.
Got it. Thanks. Thank you, Mr. President. So what the committee did was initially this had the actual crime center report, and then we had theft of a firearm was in there. We had use of a firearm in connection with the CDS, so that made it a 14101 crime. What the House amendments have done essentially is strip those two provisions out. They kept in the interlocutory appeal. So we had three things: interlocutory appeal, theft of a firearm, and then the use of a firearm. So they've struck everything but the interlocutory appeal. The gun center material remains the same.
All right, on the conference committee report, Chair's
I'll
moved for the
defer to-
adoption. Chair recognizes the Senator from District 4.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. President. So for the floor leader, just so I understand, the only thing left in this is the interlocutory appeal?
That's correct.
With all due respect, I'd like to speak on this, Mr. President.
Senator may proceed.
This is quite frankly outrageous. You know, the governor came in with about a dozen things in his crime package, dealing with all kinds of gun offenses, dealing with repeat violent offenders, dealing with people that were with straw purchases, people with assault weapons, people with machine guns, people with, you name it, it was in the governor's package. And in the Senate, we made a concerted effort to actually send over to the House a package that actually did something. And as the chairman laid out, there was interlocutory appeal, which is the only thing remaining in this, which is good. It helps with prosecuting gun cases. But they the House took out the drug dealer loophole. In the state of Maryland, if you commit any felony with a firearm, any felony, literally cheating on a horse race is a felony. Any felony you commit, you get an enhanced penalty, with the exception of dealing drugs. Why that is in our law, I have no idea. The House wants to argue that somehow this is going to be used to charge people with possession of a firearm, but the case law is very clear. You have to actively be using the firearm and actively be dealing drugs. The committee went to the great care to even spell out the case law, and yet the House rejected that. And then furthermore, the House rejected making theft of a firearm a felony. The same House chamber that sent to us regulations going after and punishing gun stores if someone steals their firearms. That same chamber did not find it important to punish the people that actually steal the firearms. So in the midst of a rise in violent crime that we have, we sent over a very narrow, small package. The governor asked for about a dozen things. We sent over three of the most common sense things we could think of. They sent back one. And for some reason, we have a conference committee in front of us that then just surrenders and gives them 1. I don't know why this is back in front of us. This is no conference committee. This is no agreement. We just gave them back everything they wanted. And if that was the case, we could have just concurred with their bill in the original place. And to think we're doing this in the face of violent crime that the Senate couldn't even fight to close a drug dealer loophole, to say if you're a drug dealer and you are actively selling drugs and actively have a gun pointed at somebody's head, you should have an enhanced penalty like every other felony in the state. That's quite frankly an embarrassment. To say that you should treat theft of a firearm like you would treat theft of any product, of a small product for a couple $100, the same body when we just voted to go after gun stores if they are the victim of crime, and we're not going to punish them we're not going to treat the theft of a firearm any more than we treat theft of anything else. That is quite frankly absurd. And so this package, unfortunately, if we came in with a Ferrari, I don't think we're even leaving with a skateboard here. And the governor has repeatedly asked for time and time and time again, and the people of Maryland, yes.
Senator, Majority Leader, we have recognizing the Majority Leader, Senator, has a motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is a motion to limit debate. Pursuant to the provisions of Senate Bill 77B, debate on Senate Bill 861 shall be limited to 4 minutes in the aggregate for consideration of second reading and third reading and final passage, and on all subsequent questions, amendments, and motions so related to such motions, readings, and other actions. The President shall allocate the 4 minutes aggregate time among those senators desiring to speak thereon, provided that not more than 2 minutes shall be allocated for the proponents and not more than 2 minutes shall be allocated for the opponents of such bill.
All right, question is on limiting debate. This is not a debatable question, Senators. The green vote will limit the debate. Red vote will be to reject the motion. The clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the chair recognizes the senator from Montgomery County.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. We are getting very, very close to the end of session, and I think it's important that we allow other bills to come up and give other senators an opportunity to get bills passed. So I move to limit debate and get the ball rolling here.
Mr. President, explaining my vote.
Chair, the senator has 2 minutes to explain his vote.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am voting to continue the opportunity to discuss this bill. I support the bill. I just want to say that I support the bill. I'm voting against limiting debate because we want to talk about how if you're taking the House amendments, you're literally taking out the ability to punish someone who steals a handgun and making it a felony like it should be. But in this state right now, if you happen to move into Maryland and you own a handgun legally in another state, but you don't register it in Maryland because you came from a state that didn't, and you're picked up with an unregistered handgun, that's a felony. But someone who steals a legal handgun that you own, it's no different than if they stole some designer shoes from your house. It's outrageous. It's outrageous considering the situation that we find ourselves in this state, that what would come back would be peanuts based on what we tried to send over to get a real handle on violent crime.
Senator's time has expired. Clerk will take the call.
Mr. President?
Clerk will take the call. With 32 votes in the affirmative, the motion is in effect. The senator has 2 minutes to explain his vote.
I was just going to ask a question. I didn't know that a motion to limit debate was debatable.
It's not debatable.
So he was just talking on the motion to limit debate still. Or that was an explanation of the vote?
That's correct, Senator.
Can I explain my vote anymore?
Senator's using up the 2 minutes. Chair recognizes the senator from the 34th.
Yeah, Mr. President, thank you. You know, we sit in a state with a terrible crisis of violent crime, and here we have a bill that proposes to make theft of a firearm a felony. People don't steal firearms because they're hungry. They don't steal firearms because they're feeling depressed. People steal firearms because they want to take a gun and commit another crime. These are folks who are coming in and breaking into folks' homes and stealing lawfully owned weapons solely for the purpose of accosting, of committing horrible crimes on our fellow citizens. And we're treating that under current law as though they're breaking into someone's home to steal a loaf of bread because their children are starving and they can't feed anyone. This is outrageous that we would accede to the demands of the House, this is a House who was repeatedly shown an incredible deference to violent criminals. The House has gone off the rails here, and you know, to the credit of this body, we have time and again sent over the other side of the hallway here bills that were intended to target violent crime, only to have them thrown back in our faces. And here, once again, the governor's initiatives have been thrown back in our faces as the House again capitulates to the violent
time
criminals.
has expired.
Thank you, Mr.
Senator's
President. I
time has
appreciate it.
expired. Question before the body.
I rise in support of the bill, Mr.
Question-
President.
No, Senator. Question is on the conference committee report. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The conference committee report is adopted. Senate Bill 861 is before the body on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? Chair recognizes the senator from the 42nd district.
Thank you, Mr. President. Actually, I wanted to explain my vote, but I can I can say the same thing here.
Senator Cloture is out. Cloture is out. There is no
I
explanation.
know, I
of
know.
votes in cloture.
So, but I'm going to say the same thing I would have said if I'd explained my vote.
All right, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Senator,
I'm
out of
sorry.
order. The clerk
I'm
will
not
call
trying
the
to
roll.
hold things up, but I had a floor amendment to remove my name from this bill. I'm
Senator-
happy to explain why, but I won't in the interest of time.
All right, the clerk will call the roll. Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take.
Explain our votes, Mr. President.
The call. Senator, the cloture is in effect. There is no time for
No explaining.
explanation of votes.
That's
Cloture,
sad.
the debate has been limited. Thank you, senators.
Just
Chair
a point
recognizes
of
Minority Leader.
order. If the
With
cloture,
45 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 861 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed.
as a point of order, the cloture motion said 2 minutes for those who support it and 2 minutes who opposed it. There were people trying to get up to support it, and you didn't allow the debate to continue. Just as a point of order.
Understood. Let's not end on this note. We got another important bill. Clerk will read the bill.
Senate Bill 763, Senator Signor, Public Safety and Criminal Procedures, Collection, Reporting, and Publication of Criminal Case and Prosecutorial Information, Maryland Criminal Justice Data Transparency Act.
All right, this is a conference committee report. Chair recognizes the chair of the committee on the conference committee report.
Thank you, Mr. President. As this came back, they added an elements of the IID, which is the independent investigator. They struck off the portion that you would have the prosecutorial ability. They added in the ability for the Attorney General's office to get subpoena. They also clarified that the Attorney General's office was the sole office responsible for conduct these investigations. They slapped back on the longitudinal data reporting, and that is essentially the product of the committee.
All right, on the conference committee report, any further discussion? Yes, Chair recognizes the senator from the 42nd.
Yes, I have a question or two. I'm sorry, you read that quite quickly. We spent a lot of time on this bill. Is the provision left in the bill which authorizes the Attorney General to prosecute any of these cases, or is the prosecution always left up to the state's attorney?
So the prosecution is always left up to the state's attorney. It's out of the bill.
Okay, so what remains in the bill?
So with respect to the IID, there were the three components. There's one was that you could subpoena power, so giving the office subpoena power instead of going...
The Attorney General's office.
Correct, instead of going through those grand juries and those far-off jurisdictions that may not have it. The second piece was that they allowed for the Attorney General to basically have injunctive relief to ensure that they were the sole office responsible for investigating those officer-involved shootings. There's jurisdictions one jurisdiction in particular that it just didn't mesh well, and so there's a tool there, injunctive relief, to allow them to say, hey, we're actually the ones that should be investigating this incident.
Okay, so the answer is the Attorney General will conduct the investigations of any cop-related shooting, whether the cop shot somebody else or somebody else shot the cop? Is that right?
Whether it's officer on officer, that's not included, but officer involved is when there's a civilian that the officer has killed.
So the
not an
shooting in
officer
Baltimore
officer.
Chair
City.
recognizes, excuse me, Senators. Chair recognizes the Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is a motion to limit debate. Pursuant to the provisions of Senate Rule 77B, debate on Senate Bill 763 shall be limited to 4 minutes in the aggregate for consideration of second reading and third reading and final passage, and on all subsequent questions, amendments, and motions so related to such motions, readings, and other actions. The President shall allocate the 4 minutes aggregate time among those senators desiring to speak thereon, provided that not more than 2 minutes shall be allocated for the proponents and not more than 2 minutes shall be allocated for the opponents of such bill.
All right.
President, I have
Questions
one
on
last
the motion?
question.
Senator, I'm sorry that questions on the motion. Senator's
President?
motion is in order.
Oh.
On the motion, it's a non-debatable motion.
I just want to make sure, not debatable, right?
That's correct.
Good, thank you.
Understood. All right, on the motion, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? If not, the clerk will call the roll. With 32 votes in the affirmative, the debate having been limited, Senator has 2 minutes on the proponent side. Senator may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. Can I just ask the floor leader a question here? So when we were in committee discussing this, I know there was a provision in the bill. The intent here is that the Attorney General would have no prosecutorial ability, correct?
Well, that's the posture it's in right now. Yes.
Okay, but when we were in committee the last time, there was it was probably erroneous, but there was a drafting, we'll call it an error, that allowed for prosecution.
That's right.
Has that been eliminated? Has that been deleted from the bill?
That was corrected. That
was
corrected.
corrected.
Yeah, you brought that up to the attention to council, and that was cleaned up.
Okay, so
Yeah.
as in his current posture, the Attorney General has responsibility for investigation, and then he turns that investigation over to the prosecutor, but then he does not, or she, excuse me, we got an election
no,
coming
yeah,
up.
yeah.
He or she does not then prosecute, correct?
That's correct. I think it's within 45 days. They've got to turn it after the completion of the investigation. They've got to turn it back over. Maybe it's 15 days after the completion of the investigation, and the file remains confidential. So yes, you're right. No prosecution.
All right, thank you. Just on the bill then, Mr. President. So what we've got here now is a bill that says that the Attorney General is the lead investigator. The Attorney General's lead investigator for a prosecution that he or she will not ultimately conduct. Colleagues, that's crazy. That's crazy. That's like saying the House will hold the hearing on the bills, they'll hold all the hearings, and then we're going to do the votes. That doesn't work that way. If you're the lead investigator, you're the lead prosecutor. To say that the lead investigator is somebody who's not the prosecutor, it's just preposterous. The prosecutor has got to be able to build their case. So now you've got a prosecutor who's building their case based upon an investigation conducted by the Attorney General. So, normally
Senator, time has expired.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. All right, on the report, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have the Conference Committee report is adopted. Senate Bill 763 is on third reader for final passage. Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 37 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 763, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Chair of Budget and Tax, we've got, this is concurrence calendar number 54. Clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 754, Senator Hester, Local Government Cybersecurity Coordination and Operations, Local Cybersecurity Support Act of 2022. This is emergency bill, EHE.
Senator says, Chair, on the House amendments.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Bill 754 is a cross-file of 1202, which we passed earlier today. This is the local government cybersecurity bill.
Moves the amendments.
I would move to concur.
All right, Chairman moves to concur. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The amendments are adopted. Senate Bill 754 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 812, Senator Hester, State Government, Cybersecurity, Coordination and Governance, EHE.
Chair recognizes the Chair of the
Mr. President,
committee.
this is across file 1346. I move to concur.
Chair moves to concur. Any discussion? If not, on the amendments, all in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The amendments are adopted. Bills on third reading for final passage. Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take.
Mr. President, I'd like to explain my
Yes,
vote.
Senator has a minute or so to explain his vote.
Just real quickly, I just want to again commend I'm sorry, it's late. Sponsor, I'm sorry. So with that, committee, and the chair. So with that, Mr. President, I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Senator.
Oh, and the
All right.
vice chair.
All right, clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 812 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. We have one last bill here. I think we've got to do some procedural stuff in the last 3 minutes. Chair, clerk will read the bill.
House Bill 1179, Delegate Johnson, State Lottery, Sale of Lottery Tickets and Tickets from Instant Ticket Lottery Machines, commissioned by the Majority Leader. Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, the House of Delegates refuses to concur in the Senate amendments.
Recognizing the Chair of the committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. We received from the Senate amendments to increase the commission to 6% for the lottery agents.
Chair moves to reconsider the third reading. All in favor
Yes.
say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The vote on reconsideration is approved. Now, Chairman moves to reconsider the amendments.
The
vote by which the amendments were adopted.
Adopted, yes.
It's, all in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The amendments are adopted. Now the motion to withdraw the amendments. Is that correct,
Yes.
Mr. Chairman?
To withdraw the amendments.
All right. All in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The motion to withdraw the amendments are adopted. The bill is now before the Senate on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 1179 have received a constitutional majority is declared passed. All right, senators. I got to do a couple thank yous. Look, this has been an incredible session. It's been an incredible term. It's been unbelievable in many, 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 many ways. I want to thank the DLS facility staff. I'm going to go through quickly. It's not, I wish I had more time to be able to explain, but the DLS facility staff, Debbie Freely and her wonderful staff, wonderful, amazing staff, Cliff, Mike, Javon, and Greg. The DGS staff, Jared Cook, who does the Miller Building, Bill Kettner in the State House, Judy Rupanarin, Alba Castillo, James Stevens, Chris Smith, Bill Eubanks, and Aaron Dennis. In OIS, incredible work, Mike Galdello and his wonderful staff. The print shop, all of the incredible print shop staff, DJ, James, this is the mailroom and recyclers too, John Spencer and staff. The tours, which have come back, Mary Mulvihill, Deb Geary, the DLS staff, finance staff, Jim Goff and his staff. Our nurses station, how about our nurses who have kept us healthy these last 90 days? Human Resources, Bridget Wickline, who's just been dealing with so many different challenges and has been crushing it. The amendment and bill drafting offices, Effie and Kelly and all of their incredible team. All of our analysts, our executive directors, those in the bill room, Dave Romans, Vicki Gruber, Ryan Bishop. I hate that we have to run through so quickly, but it's really important to get their thanks out. The COVID testing site with Webster Yee and Catherine McLeod and how great they've been. Our wonderful, wonderful, wonderful state troopers, James Herod, Stephen Stewart, Stephanie Bognowski, Tykesha Johnson, Warren Thompson, Matthew Milich, and Ryan Hollinger. Our committee members, Kim Landry, Sandy Pop, Lamoria Stanton, and Tammy Kraft. Incredible. Our committee council and B&T, Matt, Erica, Phillip. On JPR, Jamie, Heather, Josh. On finance, Dave, Patrick, Nathan. On EHE, April, Stacy, and Alexis. Our Maryland State Archives, Elaine Bachman, Catherine, Mimi, and Chris. Our Secretary of the Senate's office, please give it up to our incredible Secretary of the Senate's office. Nicole, Ronnie, Andrea, Renee, Caitlin, Nick, Joanne, Dot,
Mr. President, move sine die.
The Senate committee analysts, Beth Call, Ania Watkins, Eliza Solins, Riley Rushing, and then please, this is really, I just can't thank the incredible team that I have enough. The absolutely incredible Sally, Jody, Ross, Joy, Robin, David, Casey, Katie, Tyler, Ashley, Ruth Ann. And finally, thank you all. Thank you all. Thank you for everything that we have done. The chair recognizes the majority leader.
And I would move the Senate of Maryland stand adjourned, sine die.
Without objection, so ordered. Woo.
Are we open for announcements?